Welcome to r/RedditRevenge. This is a story of someone getting back at someone with revenge after being wronged. The first story. In a gas station run by a mean-spirited owner, a resourceful individual collects valuable quarters from coin machines as a small act of rebellion against the unkind manager. The second story. Military veteran confronts an abusive manager who overstepped boundaries and attempted to access his vehicle, leading to a series of covert retaliatory actions against the manager. The third story. Server faces a coworker's unfair table seizure, leading to a surprise turn of events involving the police and a valuable lesson learned. Today's first story is, "You overwork my friends? I'm taking your quarters." This is mundane compared to my usual problems in this area, but it's interesting. The gas station nearby was bought by a new person a few years ago, and he's terribly mean to everyone. He's polite to everyone's face, but he has a lot of lewd remarks about people behind their backs, particularly people who are not of his same culture, I guess. He yells at his wife. He's also been very mean to two of the employees there, two people who are friends of mine. One of them was pregnant, and he made her work past her schedule constantly, didn't give her time off, called her in on her days off, asked if she had a babysitter lined up before the kid was even born, and overworked her into hospitalization. The other employee, a close friend of mine, is on the older side, and manager guy overworked him into hospitalization too, plus gave him COVID. Welp, manager guy got 2 quarter machines put in the store later on. You know those machines where you drop a quarter in and try to time it right, knocking down the other quarters and winning them? I'm not bad at those. I'd also recently gotten into a coin kick, and I've learned a lot about mint errors and rare quarters. Manager guy hoards his quarters from those machines in buckets, and he doesn't go through the tax process with them, instead just pocketing them. He thinks he's slick, because he also snatches all the silver quarters out of the machine before anyone else can win them. But I've gotten quarters out of that machine that were worth plenty more than silver quarters. I've gotten countless mint errors, lots of them from 2021 and 2022, and I've found 3 West Point quarters so far. Alone, they're not worth a fortune, but I've been accumulating them for the past year. My mother just ordered me some coin holders, and now I've got a whole collection of coins to sell online in a side business. I'm not bad at just winning the machine normally, too, getting that big drop off of quarters. Every time I found a valuable quarter in the machine, I turned around, held it up in the light, and made sure a manager guy could see me doing so before I smiled and slipped it into my bra, separating it from the rest. I've done this so many times he definitely knows that I'm finding things he doesn't know to look for, and he doesn't like me playing his machine now. It's satisfying to rub his nose in it a little, knowing he's a money grubber and doesn't care about literally anything else. He bit my head off for using my winning quarters to buy a vape from him too. He said he doesn't take quarters because it's too many. Haha, it was like $14, which I counted out for him beforehand. Boo-hoo. I've got at least $100 worth of mint errors, about $60 worth of West Points, and a few questionable finds that might be big money coins. I'm almost ready to move out of the area, and I have a plan of how to get him into some legal trouble once I'm gone from there. The next story is, "I'm trained to be an a-hole. You are not." This concluded about 3 months ago. First off, let me say I have PTSD from 2 tours. This isn't a brag or a flex, but any vet with PTSD will vouch that it's very hard to let a-holes walk away. Because of this stupid SH, I can only really work jobs alone now. I've been working a while at cleaning stores after hours. Not surface cleaning, but checking areas that mice have been, etc. Dirty job, but pay more than makes up for it. One day I'm having some considerable back pain, so my wife, MIL, and SIL cover for me. I get a call a couple hours later from my wife complaining about the manager. Now, I've worked retail before and I know it sucks, so I tend to give some leeway when non-retail folks say someone's being mean versus not in the mood for BS. I hear he yelled at them when they walked in that the store was closed. Okay, buddy, they used a key, chill. Then he got upset that he didn't know where was a cleaning that day. BS. I wrote and distributed the schedule 3 weeks prior, then tried to tell them where to clean. I have a contract, and your employee duties aren't included in it. I rolled my eyes at the complaint, I admit it. Managers suck, and I didn't think this was a big deal, just some incompetent GM. Then I get a call half an hour later. GM was making some gender-based jokes to his all-male staff. Hey, you putting on your makeup, you need a tampon, etc., while they were shutting down. Okay, that's pretty tasteless, but for me it's hearsay. Then I'm told that on his way out of the parking lot, they saw the GM try to open my car's door. Insert PTSD here. I call the store the next day, ask to talk to the manager on duty. I have a pretty civil convo, highlighting my concerns about the manager paying attention to his schedule and contracts. I mentioned there was some witnessed unprofessionalism, but that's not for me to correct. Mind you, the convo is going very professionally up to this point. When I mention the car, Guy's whole attitude changes. He gets very vocal and very defensive, cutting me off and raising his voice. Before I realize we're yelling at each other, I hang up and talk to my wife. I describe the guy based off of his voice and accent, and my wife is certain that I'm speaking to the GM. I'll call him E. I call back and simply say, I want to know what authority you had to try to get in my car. E starts to play dumb until I name the security company that patrols and monitors his lot. Shared lot with other businesses, and I can request footage through the police. E says he doesn't have to explain himself to me and he hangs up. Oh F no. I call back a final time. I say if we can't work this out, I have to get your boss involved. Fine, go ahead and call me when you do. E hangs up. Insert revenge. I won't go into how, but I will explain what happened over the next few weeks. Remember, I have a key to this store and am still able to show up on contracted days. E's handwritten statement about the argument goes missing. Not a huge loss. The thing was 90% lies to get ahead of what he did. Find multiple disciplinary notes that all show that Mr. E, as all of his employees seem to call him, loved to write up all his employees for frivolous SH. This is a common tactic by weak managers as insurance for when employees complain about them. These also go missing. A file is found with many complaints about the store and interactions between E and customers. Copies are made. E's business starts to get multiple one-star Google reviews from various accounts. Some of the reviewers post pictures of his store's mouse infestation and product damage by little teeth that he leaves on the shelf. Let me tell you, seeing mouse SH next to food does wonders for your Google page. 2 anonymous complaints to the city about the mouse infestation within the store with pictures, none of which match the ones I sent to my bosses. 1 complaint to the city from an employee that cites a ton of safety violations within the store. Then mentions how bad the mouse infestation has gotten and that the city should inspect and make sure they ask for proof of an exterminator. There is none. Poor gal was begging. Her name even matched an employee's name. Fancy that. Random occult symbols begin to appear in E's work journal, hidden among things he has already written. To clarify, this is because I could recall the symbols. Its point wasn't for the occult, it was so things would show up in his personal journal that he didn't write. His boss's boss, contact info hanging in office, received an email detailing his unprofessionalism, gender-based harassment, and attempt to get into a vehicle that wasn't his. I also mentioned how many violations I saw as I was cleaning. Broken equipment, safety hazards, lack of proper cleaning supplies, chemicals over pet food, etc. I even tried to compromise and said if they can provide a policy that says he could check my vehicle without security or law enforcement, then I'd retract my complaint. Otherwise, every scheduled cleaning that he is still there for, I'd cancel and send them a fee. Suddenly, there's a shift in the store. I still go much later to avoid people, but it's much cleaner. There are even enough cleaning supplies for the store to function. There are less passive-aggressive notes everywhere. Curious about it, I go in the office and see there's definitely a change. The complaint file is shrunk down and the office is cleaner. Whoever is boss now sure seems like a nice lady. E receives a text from a number he won't be able to call back. Have you learned your lesson yet, his full name? Or do I need to take your next job from you too? The end. Edit. This wasn't just some random guy that happened to pee me off. I read the other Google reviews and the office complaints. E was by far the biggest A I've ever seen in management, and further digging made it clear that he, a second manager, also responsible for a filthy store I clean, and their direct manager were buddies. Simply complaining would have resulted in nothing clearly, hence me going even higher. The other stores I clean, about a dozen other locations, are nowhere nearly as bad. Every shred of evidence uncovered showed that this dude just loved to abuse the SH out of his position. I have no regrets, know what I'm saying? Edit 2. Since some people have very low reading comprehension, let me spell this out. You cannot act on words. Watch any body cam video. The cop explains to whoever assaults that words may hurt you, but you can't act on them. Once I had something concrete, footage of vehicle access, I had my golden ticket. Any of you mad I didn't jump to my wife's defense over words are just as juvenile as the manager. And when my wife told me she wasn't crying or scared or anything, she was peeved and annoyed too. She knew I couldn't do anything about the comments. Why can't some of you? Edit 3. Having a PTSD episode does not mean I'm suddenly back in the SH. This is a common misconception. Not all PTSD manifests the same. What it means for me is I enter a mindset where the opponent is an enemy, not a GM or an SH driver or rude passerby, and I have to efficiently and effectively destroy them in a way that keeps my hands clean. Final effing edit. This wasn't about the car. This was about what one man was comfortable doing to a stranger because he thought he could get away with it. The car was just evidence I could actually work with. For those peeved I didn't white knight my wife, she cared less about the words. The third story is, take my table, enjoy your stay. One afternoon I was working the first shift of a double and was in the back putting some things away from a delivery when I heard our other server looking for me. I popped my head out of the storage area and she told me I had a large table come in. We also had another server who was on work release from the local jail and was known to tell them she was working a double and then go hang out at the motel behind the place with her boyfriend, husband, whatever, and then come back an hour or so before she was supposed to be picked up by the cops to go back to jail. I went out and found our jailbird getting the table settled, which was a pretty normal occurrence if someone was stalking as our job required. When we met at the drink machine, I thanked her for seating them and told her I had it from there. She told me no, she sat them. She was helping them even though they were in my section. She was the senior server, no such thing, and it was her choice. We were also changing sections for the next hour. I told her no, we were not, and I would take care of the table in my section. She went and cried to our cook for the night who decided not to get involved. Typical, and told me to just let it go. If you weren't waving a six-pack of beer in front of the cook, you didn't exist, so I wasn't surprised when she declined to settle the argument. I backed off the table but refused to switch sections. The table left a $50 tip, practically unheard of in our little corner of the world. I was peeved. I was a student at the time, and that $50 could have paid for a pair of books I needed for a class. As it was, I was leaving with $23 in change that night. Yay! This also happened to be one of the nights when she decided to tell the cops that she was working a double. Not long after the table left and shift 1 ended, so did she. Her partner picked her up. She told the cook to call her if anyone came looking for her and left a room number. This was slightly before our current cell phone era. Sure enough, an officer comes in. Seems no one told him she was working a double. He was there to pick her up. Since we were busy, we didn't actually see him come in, and didn't notice him until he asked where she was. It didn't take him long to figure out she was not in the building. Word was put out that she was considered escaped and to be looking for her partner, and anyone known to associate with her. Immediately, a plan formed in my head. Before she left, she'd made us each promise not to tell anyone, especially the police, where she was. I agreed just to shut her up, thinking it was going to be like every other time she'd done this. Stupidly risky, but utterly harmless. And besides, not my clown, not my circus. As soon as I got home a few hours later, I told my mother I had a moral dilemma, and told her what was going on with my coworker. My mother did exactly what I knew she'd do. She grabbed the phone, called the sheriff's department, and reported that there was a woman staying in the hotel behind the restaurant who she knew they were looking for, and then proceeded to give them the room number. At work the next day, I got to hear all about how a half-dozen department cars rolled up in front of their room at night, busted the door open, and arrested both of them in their underwear. Her work permit was revoked, and she spent the rest of her sentence trying to figure out who ratted her out. When she was finally released a year or so later, I was completely honest and was able to tell her to her face that no, it was not me who turned her in that night. I never called the cops and I never told them what room she was in. Hope that $50 was worth it, B. Haha. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe if you want to know when the new video comes out, and hit the like button to support the channel.